In their minds they did. I can't imagine. You sitting there when, you're sitting there right, and these men were fixing to die. And I'm sitting here and I think, when I sit here, when I look at praise and worship, seeking the face of God. And I sit there, Brother Ed, and I sit there and I think, sometimes when we're not feeling well, or when we had rough weeks, and we may not, we may not praise with our fullest intention or with our whatchamacallit. Well, I sit there and I think about things like that. I sit there and I'm like, well, Lord, when I'm reading this, they were dancing and singing on their way to their death. They were fixing to get their head cut off, and Jesus, 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 I got him on my mind. And he's going, while he's fixing to be dead, he knows that when he gets to that wall, they're going to cut his head off. And he is still shouting and praising and talking in tongues and teaching and preaching to people on the way to the execution. And it is sometimes, it seems like we need some type of bomb to get us out of our chairs sometimes, Brother Ed, to do the work of God. And then we wonder sometimes why the power of God don't work now like it did then. And there's feasible answers for all of that. Most of the time, people don't receive the plausible answers because they're not looking at themselves objectively. The reason a lot of things they don't see is because people, it's hard for them to look in the mirror and be like, you little scandalous devil, you. Lord, help me, God. Lord, get behind me, devil. It's hard to look at yourself over the head and be like, yeah, you know what? Man, you was just a loser today. You need to tidy up a little bit, and you should be, you don't do the, watch me, don't do that. You do the, it's hard to be objective to yourself. But I sit there and look, and that's where we can look and ask God to mold us and to make us into what He would have us to be, that we can manifest the glory of God, to manifest the love of the Lord. There's so many people today that is looking for something. There's so many people that's looking for a church. And sometimes they don't go here, they won't go there. A lot of things because they get scared because they were hurt in the church. And then they just decide they just want to stay home. And I know, it's like my friend up the road here. That's what happened to them. And they got hurt in a church. And I sit there, and as much as I talk with them and they talk with me, and considered friends, and of course I invite them to church. I invite them, but I still always invite them to church. But that's when to me look that when God gives the increase. Because sometimes, whenever time I see somebody, Brother Nick, it's not like I'm at, hey, y'all go to church, and go to church, let's go to church, in church. Well, no, because, sometimes that's when people's like, oh God, there's hope. I ain't got time to talk about Jesus. Thought you needed some beans, forget the beans. I'll get it at the convenience store. They'll be $4 a can. Oh, don't matter, it's good beans. You don't want that either, simply because what people don't understand, okay, is if you can't make a connection with somebody, how can you be a witness? How can you catch a fish if you don't know nothing about fishing? Simply because of different times of year, it depends on also what atmosphere you're in. What's the elements like around that you're trying to fish? Because that does make a difference on what fish you're going to catch and what fish you're not going to catch. And to me, that's where you got to know not only about fishing, but you got to know where to fish. Because you can be doing it, you don't know where to fish, and you'll be here, you'll be casting all and doing nothing here, and you never know that, hey, you're hitting over here, but if you walk about 20 feet around this cove at the end right here, all the fish are right there, just throw it over there, boy, they're all over there. That's when we can look and ask God completely, God to lead us and guide us. And He said that the ones that are led by the Spirit, those are the sons of God. That's what you don't see a lot today. When you see and tell you most of the time is, oh, God don't speak like that no more. God don't use people like that no more. And I don't understand where people get that, Sister Shelton. I sit there and in my mind, I want to be looking, tell people, well, if God don't heal no more, Brother Nick, don't say, then what's the benefit of being a Christian? What's the benefit of it? I don't worry about faith. Don't worry about what's the benefit. If you can't have a friend that goes the extra mile, that never will stab you at the back, that never. If you can't have that, if you can do all you can do is say, look, I need help. If he can't reach out in and give you a hand, what's the benefit of dedicating yourself to a God that can't perform like a God? The problem with people nowadays is they take the Lord and they materialize God so much that a supernatural God cannot work supernaturally in a flesh, carnal mindset. It's not going to happen. So if the devil can continue to keep us thinking, oh, it don't work like that no more. God don't move like that more. Well, at that point, that destroys our vision for healing. He said, without a vision, you perish. So if you don't have a vision for healing, then you're going to perish. You're not going to be healed. And it don't matter if you come on, if you don't want it, you don't come. It don't matter if I, want to come to you and we get the whole oil and just baptize you in the oil. It's not going to work until you realize it and see it in yourself. And He told us that's what the Spirit of God is for. When I sit there and things, or when I was stopping and smoking, Sister Shelton, I've been smoking for 20 years. 19 and a half years. And so when I sit there and I didn't ask God, I just want you to, I wasn't like that. I said, well, Lord, I know that, I knew better. I know that, I can read. So I know that cigarettes are addictive. Okay. And any kind of health crisis on them, I can read again. It's listed on the carton. On every pack, it's sitting there telling what it does and the issues and everything. And so I just sit there and I was like, well, God, hey, I did it willingly, so I just asked for your help, Lord. I just asked for your help. That's all I asked for. I said, this is what I, want to do. And as far as conviction, and I've told several people that, and some didn't understand because I looked at, so why did you quit? Did the Lord know? I had to quit because of health reasons. My body. My health. When the Bible to me, it says, no, you're not, that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. So, and it's sitting there, and of course, when me and my heart doctor had that discussion last time, and that's what I told him, just because when, he sat there and, what he said to me and the look in his eye, that's when I told him, I said, well, before you see me again, I said, I'll have quit smoking. He said, okay. He said, I'm going to hold you to that. And I said, you can? I said, I will. I said, I've done it. And so when we went to, had to go to the heart doctor for Friday. Was it Friday, Kay? I think it was Friday. Yeah. And went and they had done all my labs. So thank God that all my labs was perfectly good. All my cholesterol was, all of it was good. And I think the next month I get some of the medicine I get to come off of. One of them they just give to everybody that has a heart attack. And so, when I was sitting there thinking that, and I asked God when we're asking to help, I said, Lord, just, when we decide to make up our mind and say, like, well, God, I want you to help, I still, even though you get into the situation, because, God didn't make me, continuously buy, a pack of cigarettes every day, Brother Nick, for 20 years. God, God didn't, you need to go, He didn't do that. He gives us free will. But when it comes to the point, I told him, I don't expect, if I really, truly desire something and desire to leave something behind because I think it's going to help my spirit and the temple of which my Holy Ghost is dwelling, then I expect it shouldn't be as hard for me as it is somebody else. Just because I'm a child of God, I'm filled with the Holy Ghost. So if, a sinner is quitting and I'm quitting, then it should be easier for me. And that's my mindset anyway. That's the way, just simply because, hey, God did. It was, when I threw my last cigarette, and that's what I told Amy. This is it. And that's what I told the Lord. I said, and I didn't throw that away. I said, Lord, you know what, when I'm sitting here done smoking this cigarette, and that's it. I ain't gonna smoke anymore. I said, God, just help me. I said, help me. Take the taste of it away. Take the urges away. And so that's when I started realizing, of course, about most of smoke is habit. is, habit forming of after you eat, in other words. Everybody goes, go get it, sitting there, because after about 72 hours of not smoking, nicotine's out of your system anyway. So your body is, after you go through those little, withdrawals, headaches, after about 72 to 80 hours, after that, it's out of your body anyway. So from that point on, it's nothing but a habit. And so, that's why they say it's a lot of people, after when they quit smoking, they gain a little weight sometime because they're used to putting something in their mouth, and a lot of people will take it and will put food or in snack or something to keep them from smoking. But I sit there and I was asking God the other day. I was like, Lord, just help us. I said, help us that we can look, and when we ask something of Him, knowing that He said that He would give it to us. He said He would give us the desires of our heart. So if we ask Him something, He said, ask anything in His name, believing, and it shall be done for us. However, we've got to make sure that what we're asking lines up with what God has for us in store for our lives. If we're asking something that really ain't, that God ain't even, He's like, well, that's good. That's all well and good. But this year, you really need to be here. You're not right. You're not supposed to be here. That's like the passion. But this is where I placed you over here. Okay. At that point, there's a lot of times though people just will be like, well, yeah, God, but if I do that, I'll have to go and backtrack and come over here and come over this and do this way. And it was years ago when my father, he went to through his job. He was at the corrections, at a youth corrections and facility, and he had went up to train all that he could at the chain of command and the youth probation. And so he got up there and went as far as he could go, and he decided to go back to school.